What is up, you guys? It's a new week, so you know what that means. It's a new episode. I am happy to see you guys. I hope you've had a great week because this episode is about to be about the game manager in 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. What is up, you guys? It's a new week, so you know what that means. It's a new episode. I'm happy to see you guys. I hope you've had a great week because this episode is a little bit spicy and it is about to be kind of covering what Cam Newton said this week about game managers versus game changers and how it seems like it rustled a lot of feathers throughout the media industry over what he was saying, which, if you ask me, there is a lot of truth to what he is saying, and that it seems like it took a turn for the worse because of what he was saying, or was it more because of who was saying it? So we're about to get into it. Let's go. If you are not familiar with the Cam Newton game manager, game changer conversation, it was on his podcast this week where he pretty much explained who he believes is a game changer versus the guys who are game managers.
He's managing the game. And if we were to put that in its own right as game managers, Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, and really Dak Prescott. These are game managers. They're not difference makers.
And when you say game manager, I'm not asking you to go out and win the game. I'm just asking you not to lose.
Not to lose the game.
And it looks like it really rubbed everyone the wrong way. Some of the names that he kind of mentioned to him, game changers, are Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers. To him also, game managers are like Brock Purdy, Tua, Jared Goff, and he said Dak Prescott. And it made a lot of people angry. My question to everyone is, are you more mad about the names that he mentioned, or are you mad that it was just Cam Newton saying it? When Tom Brady said a few weeks ago that he felt like the state of the quarterback was very mediocre and not that good, and guys aren't that developed, everyone said, you know what, Tom? You're right.
Mediocrity in today's NFL. Yeah. I don't see the excellence that I saw in the past.
Why not?
And
why not?
I think the coaching isn't as good as it was. I don't think the development of young players is as good as it was. The rules have allowed a lot of bad habits to get into the actual performance of the game. Mm-hmm. So I just think the product, in my opinion, is less than what it's been. I look at a lot of players like Ray Lewis and Rodney Harrison and Ronnie Lott and guys that impacted the game in a certain way. And every hit they would have made would have been a penalty. You hear coaches complaining about their own player being tackled and not necessarily, why don't they talk to their player about how to protect himself? We used to work on the fundamentals of those things all the time. Now they're trying to be regulated all the time. Offensive players need to protect themselves. It's not up to the defensive player to protect the offensive player. A defensive player needs to protect himself. I didn't throw the ball to certain areas because I was afraid players were going to get knocked out. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. Wow. I didn't throw it to the middle when I played Ray Lewis because you knock him out of the game, and I couldn't afford to lose a good player.
And I get it. Tom Brady is the GOAT. I'm not debating what he's saying. I agreed with him. But if Cam Newton is trying to give you insight on, hey, I don't think these guys are game changers, they're game managers, it's not a diss. I think everyone thought it was a diss, not knowing what he was saying. So I'm going to be real with you. Hearing the podcast, I felt like I understood what he was trying to say, which is these guys are still great at their job. It's not a backhanded compliment. It's just saying that they just don't need to do anything to lose the game for the team. They just need to pretty much play their role and do their job as well as they do it, and the team will win. Whereas game changers affect the entirety of the game. Brock Purdy is a good example, even though everyone's upset about that. Brock Purdy, in a sense, is a game manager. That doesn't take away the throws, how he goes through his reads. He makes the right plays when needed. But also, the games that the 49ers have lost is when he makes mistakes. 1 to 2 interceptions. That's what I felt like Cam was trying to say, where you just have to play your role. If you're doing great, you win the game. But if you make mistakes, it puts the team in position to lose. To me, the game changers on the 49ers is Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. That's who affects the entire outcome of the game. You look at the Dolphins. There is an argument that to some people, Tua is a game changer. But in a lot of instances that we've seen this season, Tua is a game manager. The game changer for them is Tyreek Hill, and we saw how much he impacted the game when he got hurt against the Titans and really couldn't go to his full strength. They struggled. Tua struggled. That doesn't take away from these guys and say that they not, do a good job. It's just saying that they are maybe not the stars or the overarching changers of the game, that the team could probably succeed even if they were not playing. Now, I again think people were more mad that Cam said it, and it didn't come from someone maybe they see as qualified to say it. To me, though, Cam is one of the greatest college football players we've ever seen in the quarterback position. Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, number 1 overall pick, league MVP. So he kind of has the resume and the validity to speak on game changers. He then went on to say that these executives, these GMs, when they go into the draft, they're not saying, let's go draft another Brock Purdy. Let's go draft another Jared Goff. And he is true.
Game changer is this. As an organization going into the offseason, our main pick or our main emphasis on trying to decide a quarterback is, oh man, we got to go find us another A-Rod, the next Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson. And this may make a lot of people feel a certain type of way, but it's the truth. I don't see people going into the draft as executives of franchises. They don't say, I'm going into the draft to find another Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa. Remove you from that source, and does that team still be successful? Most of those players that I named, those teams will still be successful in some way, shape, form. I'm not bashing anybody.
If you think about game changers, right? Cam Newton was a game changer. The archetype of the quarterback position changed a little bit when he came because there was a difference. He was really big, really strong, able to run people over and run the ball, but he also had a really great arm. He was a little different than what they had seen. That is not taken away from some of the greats that we've seen in the position of being able to run the ball and throw the ball. You know, Mike Vick, Randall Cunningham, to name a few, but he was a little bit different. When you think of the draft class that we just saw, what was the NFL comp for Anthony Richardson? He plays like Cam Newton.
Growing up, it was always Cam Newton for me. So a lot of people say Cam. I believe it is Cam.
His body looks like Cam Newton. He has all the intangibles to be a Cam Newton, which is what the Colts wanted to build a franchise around. So he is very much qualified to speak on what he thinks is game changers versus game managers. You can argue Dak, right? You can sit there and say, Dak is a game changer. I believe he's a game changer this season. I think he's having an MVP caliber season. In this West Coast offense, I do believe it makes Dak be more of a game changer because it really puts in those big plays to make those big throws that he can deliver. But there has been certain years where Dak was a game manager where you just don't need to make any mistakes and we'll win this game. And that's okay. Cam also went on to say there were times in his career he needed to be a game manager instead of a game changer, that he didn't need to go to try and win every single game. Sometimes he just needed to do his role pretty well with no mistakes and they would win. So game manager is not a diss. It seems like everyone took it as a diss and it's not. It is the truth though. I'm going to be real. I think a lot of the anger that some of these people in the media had over his comment is because it invalidates what they've been saying for months now. All the guys he named are guys that a lot of people have odds for to be the MVP. They believe Brock Purdy is an MVP caliber player. They believe Tua is an MVP caliber player. I believe Dak is an MVP caliber player as well. But it kind of, in a sense, I think breeds a little bit of this fear that everything that they've been saying for the last few months might be wrong. I didn't agree with how they attacked him as the person. I didn't think that was necessary. You can argue the point, and I think it should have stayed to that. You don't have to say that Cam's bitter or his ego and he's just mad because he's not in the league. I don't even think it was that, because what he was saying to me, again, was not a diss. It was him giving an honest assessment of what he's seeing and saying, these guys are game managers and that's fine. But instead it became really personal. And he kind of answered it in such a really articulate way by saying, you know, everything is subjective and opinionated, even me for someone who played. But if you're able to get up there and speak on these things, and I respect your opinion, even if we agree or disagree, why is it such a problem if I have an opinion and I want to say how I feel? It shouldn't have to be this personal attack on each other. Let's just argue the point and let's go on with it. But I do think there is this thing sometimes in the media where I think they try to give a level of validity depending on who you are and how they see your opinion. And I believe this, as a person who has never played a down of football, actual like regulated football. Now I grew up playing it at recess and things like that, but actually putting pads on and getting hit and doing all those things. But I love the sport. I love talking about it, analyzing it. you still have to respect that people who have played have an opinion about it. That is a whole different experience. That is a whole different perspective. And sometimes you have to sit there and say, man, they might be right. Sometimes they might be off. But sometimes there might be something you take from it. Cam Newton was not completely wrong in what he was saying and who he was qualifying as game managers. He was pretty spot on, if we're being honest. But because everyone thought that it was coming from a place of bitterness and ego, they missed the whole point of what he was saying, which is these guys are in the NFL for a reason. I'm fans of them. They're great. Their teams are winning. That's the only thing that matters. But they're not the game changers. They're not the Lamar Jacksons of the world. They're not the Patrick Mahomes of the world. They don't affect the entirety of the game by how they play. They're just not superstars per se, but they are stars in their own right, in their own role of being a game manager. I didn't understand why it was such a big deal. It's interesting to me because I feel like in the NFL, the conversation of not being, say, a game changer is very emotional and sensitive for people. I feel like in the NBA, it's okay to say that this guy is a role player. He is not meant to be the superstar. If you ask me, I think Chris Paul, if we're giving comparisons, Chris Paul is a game manager. He's a point guard, right? But we have seen point guards who affect games and are game changers. I think Jalen Brunson is a game changer, right? Not a game manager. That does not take away from either one of them because they're stars in their own right and how they do their role, but they might not be the focal point. They might not change everything like a Kevin Durant, a Devin Booker, a LeBron James, or, whoever else you could think of. But for some reason in the NFL, when you start saying that quarterbacks may not be the superstars of the team, it really just gets everyone in a tizzy for reasons I never understood because, again, yes, they are doing their job well, but they just might not be the superstars of the team. And if we are taking it a step further, he did make, the comparison that in a sense, Tom Brady was a game manager. You don't have to get sensitive about this one because in the real conversation of it, Tom Brady was a game manager. That does not mean he's still not the GOAT. I mean, we see everything that he's won and accomplished, but his job, and I feel like Tom Brady has said this multiple times, my job is to go out there and give our team the best chance to win, get the ball where it's supposed to be, protect my guys, and not make mistakes. Like, he may not run the ball and scramble. I'm going to sit here and deliver these throws, and it's going to be the correct plays. That still doesn't take away that Tom Brady's GOAT. He just might be labeled a game manager in a sense versus a game changer. When you think of Patrick Mahomes, a game changer is someone who could literally do what he does. There's plays that are busted we've seen from the Chiefs, and Patrick Mahomes will just run out the pocket and do something crazy, or we see him do a pump fake and he throws the ball, or Lamar Jackson, those electrifying plays, those plays where you sit there and say, how the heck could they even do that? Where it's like, man, they're game changers. They just affect the entirety of what this game can be. So I don't understand why everyone was so upset about it because to me, some of the names he rattled off, most of them are true. You could debate, I think, Tua and Dak, maybe more Dak because he's playing so well this season. I do believe he's having an MVP caliber season. But I think, in a sense, Brock Purdy is a game manager. That's not a diss. I think in a lot of ways, Jared Goff is a game manager. And, Tua, again, you could go back and forth with the Tua and Dak thing, but it's not taking away that they're winning games for their team. It's not taking away that they're the person for the job. It's just saying that they're just not the game changers for them. So I hope everyone looks at it a little bit differently going forward and really starts to, I guess, observe and critique the things that he was saying in terms of game managers and see the overarching difference in them, right? If you think about the Ravens, when people say who's going to affect the game, we say Lamar Jackson. That's a game changer. You bring up the Chiefs, it's Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. If you think about the 49ers, the first name that pops up in your head is Christian McCaffrey. Second might be Debo. And then the third is really that defense. And then you're like, as long as Brock is Brock. Like that, it's not a diss. It's not a backhanded compliment. Do not think that it is this horrible thing to label a player a game manager. No. It's just there is a difference. And we have to acknowledge that. And that is okay. Well, that is it, you guys. I told you, this episode was strictly us talking about Cam Newton, game manager versus game changer. Let me know in the comments how you feel about the debate. Do you feel like some of the guys he named are game managers, or do you think they're game changers? And where do you see kind of like how the media maybe misinterpreted? Do you believe that they were just more upset because it's Cam Newton and maybe there's a lack of respect there? Or do you think that they were justified in kind of attacking him and not the point? Let me know how you feel about it in the comments. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys coming in every week to talk some type of sports with me. I am internally and always grateful for you guys. So I will be seeing you next week.